Imagine discovering one morning that the world's most famous image, the face of the Son of God, may not be what we think it is. For centuries, artists have depicted Jesus' face with characteristics such as long hair, gentle eyes, and a beard. But how can we verify the accuracy of these depictions? What if the face we've all come to recognize as Jesus is actually wrong? What if science has uncovered something completely different? Scientists are uncovering shocking new details about the face of Jesus, and it's not what anyone expected. There's an ancient piece of cloth that some believe once wrapped the body of Jesus Christ after his crucifixion. For centuries, this cloth has fascinated historians, theologians, and even skeptics. Modern science is now revealing new clues about the true face of Jesus, and it's nothing like we imagined. In fact, this mystery goes all the way back to 1898, when an Italian photographer named Secondo Pia took the first ever photo of the shroud. When he developed the negatives, he saw something incredible, a clear image of a man's face, much sharper than what the naked eye could see on the cloth. Some believe it's a holy relic, while others are convinced it's a fake. In the 1970s, a group of scientists decided to settle the argument once and for all. They established the Shroud of Turin Research Project, STURP, and conducted numerous tests to determine if the image on the cloth was a painting, a print, or something else entirely. Scientists couldn't explain how the image imprinted itself on the cloth. They found no traces of paint or dye. In fact, the way the image appeared seemed almost impossible, as if a massive burst of energy had created it. Some estimates suggest that this burst would have required over 6.4 gigawatts of power, the kind of energy you'd find in a bolt of lightning. In the 1980s, researchers tried to debunk the shroud, once again using carbon dating. They tested a small piece of the cloth and concluded that it was from the Middle Ages, not the time of Jesus. For a while, this seemed to settle the debate. People thought the shroud was a forgery. It turns out those carbon dating tests might not have been as accurate as we once thought. In fact, new evidence suggests the piece they tested could have been from a patch added later, after the cloth survived a fire in the 1500s. This means the carbon dating results could be completely wrong, leaving the door wide open for the shroud to be much older than we ever imagined. Just when everyone believed they had solved the mystery of the shroud, a new technology emerged that has the potential to transform everything. Using state-of-the-art X-ray imaging and AI facial reconstruction, scientists have taken a fresh look at the shroud, and what they've found is beyond anything we could have predicted. For millions of Christians around the world, believing in Jesus Christ is the foundation of their lives. For centuries, this cloth has been a symbol of deep faith, but now scientific discoveries are forcing believers to confront an uncomfortable question. Do you need physical proof to believe? This is the battle of faith versus evidence, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Let's dive into the facts and explore how this ancient cloth is challenging everything we thought we knew. The Shroud of Turin has a long and complicated history. A French knight named Geoffrey de Charny owned the shroud in the 1300s, according to the earliest records. From that point on, generations passed it down to Turin, Italy, where it has remained ever since. However, during the majority of its early existence, people did not treat the shroud as a sacred relic, but rather as a piece of cloth bearing a mysterious image. For those who believe, the shroud is sacred evidence that Jesus lived, died, and rose again. But for skeptics, it's nothing more than an ancient hoax, a clever piece of medieval trickery designed to fool the faithful. And so the battle between faith and evidence began. Despite this remarkable discovery, not everyone found it convincing. 3 independent laboratories undertook the task of using carbon dating in 1988 to determine the age of the shroud. The results were disappointing for believers. The tests showed that the shroud was likely from the Middle Ages, dating it to between 1260 and 1390 AD, long after the time of Christ. For skeptics, this seemed like proof that the shroud was a fake. But there was a catch, a corner of the shroud, which may have undergone repair after surviving a fire in 1532, provided the sample for the carbon dating. This meant the carbon dating might not have been accurate, throwing the entire experiment into doubt. Suddenly, the door was open again for the possibility that the shroud could be much older than originally thought. For many people, the idea of needing scientific proof to support their faith is uncomfortable. Faith, after all, should entail believing in things that are not visible or tangible. Jesus himself said to his disciple Thomas, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." But when confronted with something like the Shroud of Turin, it's hard not to wonder, what if this is real? What if this is the face of Jesus, captured in a moment of divine resurrection? On the other hand, relying too much on physical evidence can be dangerous. In many ways, the shroud has become a test of faith for millions of people. It's a reminder that belief isn't always easy, especially in a world where science and technology are constantly pushing the boundaries of what we know. But at the same time, it's a symbol of hope, a physical connection to the divine that inspires millions to keep believing, even in the face of doubt. For as long as people have believed in the Shroud of Turin, others have questioned its authenticity. It's a classic battle between truth and skepticism. One side passionately convinced that the shroud is a sacred relic, and the other determined to prove it's a clever hoax. This clash has pushed both believers and doubters to search for answers, but the truth remains elusive. The shroud was a forgery, likely created during a time when relics were in high demand and churches were eager to possess items that would draw in pilgrims and their money. But the story didn't end there. This revelation reopened the debate, with some scientists calling for new tests on untouched parts of the cloth. Suddenly, the final proof that had supposedly debunked the shroud was in doubt. Was the shroud still a medieval creation, or could it really date back to the time of Jesus, after all? Skeptics contend that the lack of a definitive explanation for the formation of the image does not necessarily imply its miraculous nature. Just because science hasn't yet explained something doesn't mean it can't eventually. After all, science is constantly making new discoveries, and what appears mysterious today may become common knowledge tomorrow. For believers, this is a terrifying thought. It would mean that one of the most cherished relics in Christianity is based on a lie. It would shake the foundations of faith for many people who have long seen the shroud as a tangible link to Jesus' life and death. People often describe Jesus' resurrection as a moment of incredible power, overturning the natural laws of life and death. The Bible states that following his crucifixion, people laid his body in a tomb, wrapped it in burial cloths, and left it to rest. But 3 days later, something unimaginable happened. He rose from the dead. This act wasn't just a sign of hope for early Christians. It was a demonstration of divine power that surpassed all human understanding. Scientists have suggested that an energy source so powerful that it is difficult to explain could have caused the imprint on the shroud, thanks to advancements in imaging techniques. Some researchers estimate that the energy needed to create the image could be around 6.4 gigawatts, an amount similar to a lightning strike. Could this have been the energy of resurrection itself? It's a fascinating thought, and one that continues to inspire believers worldwide. In Christian theology, the resurrection of Jesus isn't just about him coming back to life. It's about the defeat of death itself. It represents the promise that those who believe will also conquer death and have eternal life. This explains the power of the resurrection and the Shroud of Turin's status as more than just an artifact. To many, it's a tangible reminder of this divine victory. The image of a crucified man on the throne fits perfectly with the description of Jesus' death in the Bible. The wounds visible on the figure, nail marks in the wrists and feet, a spear wound in the side, and even the marks of a crown of thorns match the injuries Jesus would have sustained during his crucifixion. For believers, these wounds are not just signs of suffering, but symbols of sacrifice and redemption. More importantly, they demonstrate the divine power that resurrected Jesus. The shroud, for many, is a reminder that death is not the end. Instead, Many view it as the ultimate proof that Jesus overcame death, demonstrating that anyone who believes can do the same. The resurrection of Jesus has always been a point of debate. For believers, it's a historical event, something that truly happened in time and space. For skeptics, it's more of a symbolic or spiritual idea, a story meant to inspire faith, but not necessarily grounded in reality. The Shroud of Turin, if authentic, could bridge that gap, providing physical evidence of a supernatural event. At the heart of the resurrection is a message of love. People view Jesus' sacrifice on the cross and his victory over death as the pinnacle of divine love. The shroud, with its haunting image of a wounded man, brings this love into sharp focus. It's a reminder that Jesus didn't just suffer and die, he did so out of love for humanity and with the power to rise again. This message resonates deeply with Christians around the world. The shroud doesn't just symbolize power, it symbolizes grace. It's a reminder that through Jesus, believers can find hope in even the darkest moments. The image on the cloth, with all its marks of pain and suffering, also carries the promise of renewal and new life. This fear of the unknown, of not knowing for sure, adds to the shroud's mystery and its power. Whether real or not, it challenges both believers and skeptics to confront the possibility that there's more to this world and to our understanding of history than meets the eye. Should we believe that this cloth is the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, imprinted with his likeness through a burst of divine energy at the moment of resurrection? Or should we view it with skepticism as a cleverly constructed relic from the Middle Ages designed to inspire faith in a time when relics held great power? The truth is, the shroud's power lies not in whether it's real or fake, but in the way it invites us to question and to explore. It reminds us that faith and curiosity are not opposites. They can exist side by side. It's the perfect example of how we, as humans, are constantly seeking to understand the mysteries of our world, whether through religious belief or scientific inquiry. If you're enjoying this content and finding value in the stories we share, consider supporting us by hitting the Super Thanks button. Every contribution helps keep this channel thriving, ensuring we can keep exploring the unknown together. It acts as a mirror, reflecting the hopes, doubts, and beliefs of everyone who comes into contact with it. For some, it reaffirms the notion that faith surpasses tangible proof, that a piece of cloth can't validate one's belief in the resurrection. Indeed, Jesus taught that faith is trusting in the unseen. But for others, it represents a tangible link to the divine, a piece of history that may be the closest we'll ever get to touching a moment when heaven and earth collided. It's not just a relic. It's a symbol of the divine power that shaped the world's largest religion. This duality, the tension between faith and proof, is what keeps the shroud so relevant today. It stands at the intersection of belief and doubt, reminding us that it's okay to question and that sometimes the most profound truths can exist in the midst of uncertainty. Whether you believe it's a miracle or a medieval creation, you can't deny the impact it has had on history and faith. Its very existence forces us to consider the possibility of the supernatural and to wonder if there are forces at work in the universe that we can't fully explain. For some, that's a comforting thought, that there are still mysteries left to discover, that there's more to life than meets the eye. For others, it's unsettling. We live in a world where we crave certainty, where we want clear answers and proof for everything. However, the shroud serves as a reminder that we may never fully understand some things. The legacy of the shroud is a blend of faith and doubt. It has inspired centuries of devotion while also stirring intense debate. Even today, with all the tools of modern science at our disposal, we still don't know for sure what it is or how it came to be. That enduring mystery is part of what makes the shroud so powerful. In a way, it's a perfect symbol for the human experience, the never-ending quest to understand the world around us, while also accepting that there are things we might never be able to explain. The story of the Shroud of Turin unites faith and reason, belief and skepticism, mystery and certainty. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.